This story begins with the pop music singer Jocelyn, who has fallen into depression after losing her mother some time ago. After her last tour was cancelled due to a nervous breakdown, she is preparing for the release of her comeback single. She participates in a candid photo shoot, shooting the cover. Record label executive Nikki Katz is overseeing all of this. The photo shoot gets interrupted by the intimacy coordinator. Joss has a specific contract that says only certain parts of her chest can be shown. However, she's shown more than what's agreed upon. Joss feels she should have control over her body and its portrayal. Yet, the coordinator suggests any change would mean amending the contract, a process that might take days. To speed things up, Joss's manager, Haim, locks the coordinator away, allowing the shoot to continue. He gives $5,000 to a man to hold the door for 3 hours. Jocelyn's other manager, Destiny, informs Haim that 11 minutes ago a LEWD selfie of Joss was leaked onto the internet. Haim tells Nikki about this photo. They approach Benjamin, Jocelyn's publicist, who coordinates a response to maintain her reputation. Benjamin says he'll give the right information on Twitter. They discuss that this photo could have been worse. Next they are joined by Talia Hirsch, a Vanity Fair writer. Her team is racing against time to contain the situation, especially given her recent emotional distress over her mother's passing due to cancer. To boost her image, Jocelyn and her crew come up with a fresh track named World Class Sinner. Live Nation representative Andrew Finkelstein arrives by car. As an event manager, he is thinking of canceling her shows unless he's sure she won't face another emotional setback. The last time, due to Jocelyn's breakdown, he faced big losses. Amidst all this, Jocelyn is also preparing for a major interview with Talia from Vanity Fair and getting ready for her upcoming music video. Jocelyn practices with her dancers, but her moves are rusty from not dancing for a while. Unable to keep the news from her for long, her team eventually shows her the leaked photo. Joss's response is composed. She's hurt but doesn't let it completely shake her. Later, her friend Diane from the dance team invites Jocelyn to the nightclub. At a club, Joss catches the attention of club owner named Tedros, who expresses admiration for her and wishes to dance. Their chemistry is evident as they end up sharing a moment in a secluded stairway, talking about their shared passion for music. They confess mutual feelings. The following day, Joss is interviewed by Vanity Fair. The interviewer attempts to get a reaction regarding the controversial photo, but Joss deflects, mentioning she has learned not to respond to everything. Throughout the episode, a recurring theme emerges: Joss's concern about the depth of her music. She wonders if it's just a commercial and fears ridicule. Later, in a conversation with her confidant, Leia, Joss mentions inviting Tedros over. Leia, however, expresses reservations about him, saying he gives off unsettling vibes. Joss, however, finds his dangerous allure appealing. Tedros visits Joss, making himself comfortable with a drink and some illicit substances. The atmosphere is charged as Joss descends in an elegant red dress. She plays him her latest song, hoping for genuine feedback, given her insecurities about her music. While Tedros acknowledges the song's potential hit status, he comments she doesn't sound authentic. To emphasize his point, in a somewhat exaggerated manner, he engages in a questionable act involving Joss's robe. Jocelyn gathers her crew to share a remixed song, a collaboration with Tedros from the previous episode. She's anxiously messaging Tedros, noticing he's been distant, but assures she'll reach out later. As she introduces the track to her team, she conveys it truly represents her now. However, Nikki, the most outspoken member, disapproves, stressing the original was already a significant investment. The song itself, laden with sensual undertones, appears quite standard for pop music. Later, Jocelyn, evidently upset, tries connecting with Tedros while working in the studio. Their conversation, with Tedros getting his hair styled, reflects his aloof nature. He's elusive about meeting her, furthering Jocelyn's feelings of disappointment. Jocelyn eventually informs Tedros that her team has decided against the remix, favoring the original. Tedros suggests maybe she needs a team more aligned with her vision. The day takes a toll when Jocelyn reaches her music video shoot 3 hours late due to makeup artists covering self-inflicted scars on her legs. The shoot is laden with challenges. Jocelyn's lack of sync and coordination triggers frustration all around, leading her to consider scrapping the entire project. Jocelyn's concern over expenses is dismissed by her manager, highlighting the hefty $450,000 price tag and questioning her dependability. He emphasizes the need for her to prove her commitment and reliability. The team discovers Tedros's dubious past, his debts, and a digital absence, creating behind-the-scenes tension. The video shoot continues to spiral, with Jocelyn repeatedly apologizing for her performance. However, after some encouragement, Jocelyn nails the act, only to learn the camera's focus was off. Physically drained, with bleeding feet and thighs, she's on the edge. Her distress peaks as she calls out for her late mother. While everyone sees her struggle, the pressure for another shot persists. A sympathetic team member tries to uplift her, yet in the backdrop, Nikki is considering promoting one of Jocelyn's backup dancers who showcases promising talent. When Nikki suggests Jocelyn take a break, it feels less about caring for Jocelyn's well-being and more about the shoot's feasibility. Despite the evident strain, Jocelyn, not wanting to disappoint, offers to try again the next day, although Nikki remains skeptical. Later, she invites Tedros to her place. Interestingly, Tedros is also involved with the backup dancer. As Jocelyn's party at her house unfolds, a girl goes for a swim, shedding her clothes. Tedros's blonde associate meets with Layla, surprising her with their connection to Tedros, whom she found unsettling. Meanwhile, Layla gets close with the blonde associate and learns he has ties to Tedros's business, hinted to be shady. Jocelyn and Tedros have an intimate moment, with Jocelyn wanting it to be intense, even as it feels she's being exploited due to her vulnerable state. Their explicit encounter seems more crude than passionate, perhaps highlighting Tedros's true nature. Meanwhile, a girl named Chloe, secretly watching, gets stimulated by the scene. Post their encounters, Tedros proposes moving in with Jocelyn for easier collaboration, an idea she's fond of. Soon, Jocelyn discovers Chloe's singing talent, backed by the blonde guy. The gathering seems staged by Tedros, hinting at a deeper scheme. As they all sing together, Jocelyn appears touched, feeling like she's surrounded by a newfound family. However, Layla seems suspicious, and Tedros's wary glance suggests he's aware of her doubts. Tedros suggests to Joss that they go shopping, presumably on Joss's dime. During the drive, with Leia at the wheel, Tedros and Joss get overly intimate in the back seat, with Tedros even jesting about Leia's driving. At the shop, they make a show of greeting excited fans. Leia feels that Tedros has organized this entire scene, even alerting the paparazzi. Inside the store, Tedros oversees all of Joss's selections, reminding one of how Kanye once influenced Kim's fashion choices. He even asserts his dominance, dismissing a store employee's suggestions and issuing him a warning for simply looking at Joss. Leia takes a moment outside to call Kame, Joss's agent, expressing her unease about Tedros's growing influence, noting that he's even dismissed their chef, Andres. Flashing back, we see a confrontational scene at Joss's house where Tedros boldly claims his dominance, even going to the extent of physically assaulting Andres and coercing Joss to fire him. Back in the present, the couple's shopping trip is punctuated by more intimate encounters in the dressing rooms. Once home, Tedros meets Joss's other managers. Though the meeting seems amicable, the managers confide in each other afterward, voicing concerns about Joss's well-being. Another intimate scene ensues between Joss and Tedros on her patio. Meanwhile, the backup dancer from the previous episode appears to be succeeding in the role initially meant for Joss, after Joss's struggles led Nikki to abandon the music video project. In a heart-to-heart, Joss confides in Chloe about the pain of her mother's passing. Tedros, not missing a beat, criticizes the management to Joss's creative director. The director hints that things would be different if he were in charge. Tedros gets a hint from the creative director about displaying the edgier side of pop star Joss, suggesting they use a controversial leaked picture as the cover for her album. To many, it's clear that Tedros is somewhat jealous of Joss's success, wealth, and talent, and he appears to relish the idea of belittling her. Joss spends time with Tedros's crew, who have seemingly moved into her house. They share Tedros's belief of never saying no to anything, discussing their quirky beliefs. Joss, however, doesn't instantly buy into it. She questions their views, showing a side of her that's confident and assertive, a change from her usual demeanor. Hints of a cultish environment arise. At a dinner, Joss speaks fondly about inheriting her mother's home and being surrounded by those she believes care for her. She expresses feeling healed and well after a long period. The topic of the leaked photo as an album cover is brought up by Tedros, which surprises Leia. While Joss first considers the idea as a way to reclaim her narrative, she ultimately decides against it, calling the incident humiliating. An argument between her and Tedros ensues, revealing a determined Joss who challenges him openly. She stresses her desire to be respected in the industry and aims for a long-lasting, meaningful career. Tedros counters, implying she needs to be more daring. She highlights to Tedros that speaking is simple when you're not the one facing the challenges. She also asserts her experience in the music field, contrasting it with his lack of it. It's clear that Tedros isn't accustomed to opposition, making the exchange engaging to viewers. However, he soon discovers her weak spot, her mother. Initially, she's hesitant to discuss this painful past, but he uses their growing closeness to persuade her to open up. She confesses that her mom would hit her in concealed spots to control her actions, making her recite lines or practice dances. This abuse continued until her mother's health declined due to cancer. Tedros asks if she sometimes feels her stagnation in music is tied to missing her mom's forceful methods. After some contemplation, she admits to sometimes feeling that way. Tedros observes Leia's fatigue and suggests Isaiah assist her to rest. He then proposes a peculiar idea to Joss about confronting her trauma using a hairbrush. During this time, there's music in the backdrop by the artist, The Weeknd. When she presents the hairbrush to Tedros, the story shifts to the next day, but not before depicting a disturbing scene. Joss is shown being struck with the hairbrush in a highly inappropriate setting, which seems to blend pain with a misguided sense of allure. Subsequently, Joss and Tedros share a bath, where he gently cares for her, almost as if making up for the earlier brutality. She acknowledges his care with gratitude. The day after a major gathering at the mansion, it's quite the scene. Every evening seems like a festivity, and housekeepers are left with the aftermath, picking up leftover beverages and tidying up some risque items. These housekeepers chat, sharing thoughts on Tedros's eccentricity and discussing his height, hinting he might be overcompensating for something. Though they'd prefer a saner work environment, leaving their job isn't simple. Destiny shares a troubling piece of information with Chaim. Tedros had a dark past. He was once accused of detaining his girlfriend, a scenario so grim that it resulted in a lengthy trial transcript that's hard to digest. Chaim requests Destiny to keep a close watch on the mansion's goings-on while he contemplates the next steps. Meanwhile, Tedros is sidelining Joss's professional commitments and bringing in his own crew. He advises Leia to skip a planned meeting related to their mutual makeup venture, adding if she wishes to collaborate with him, she must be resilient. Destiny strikes a rapport with Chloe, a girl with a troubled past. Once struggling with addiction, Chloe owes her recovery to Tedros. Despite being talented, Chloe's naive nature stands out. She genuinely believes in the unity of their group, making her potentially a point of leverage for Destiny. Then there's Diane, an artist on the rise, possibly due to Nikki passing on a music video opportunity from Joss. A peculiar scene unfolds in the music studio. To extract a unique sound from Joss, Tedros employs an intimate technique, blindfolding her and getting rather close. Amidst all this, Destiny remains composed, trying to stay undercover and gather information. Leia appears uneasy during a peculiar recording session. Destiny, witnessing this unsettling event, confides in Chaim about the bizarre and possibly dangerous relationship between Joss and Tedros. Leia tries to grasp the situation, asking a blonde guy why everyone is idly watching Tedros manipulate Joss. He responds, saying that while it might seem odd to outsiders, it's just Tedros' method, emphasizing that Joss isn't just a person but a global star. Leia's continuous association with this strange group is baffling. Meanwhile, at the record company, Diane is presented with a grand opportunity, making her both elated and apprehensive. On another front, Tedros discovers Xander, who he identifies as the creative head, singing privately. When questioned about not singing professionally, Xander reveals an old injury to his vocal cords. Tedros, already aware of this and Xander's painful past with Joss's mother, decides to confront him. In a tense moment, Tedros presents a shock collar, signaling his intention to use it on Xander. When Xander tries to flee, he's restrained. As Tedros seeks answers about Xander's history with Joss and past silent compliance to abuse, he sets Joss against Xander, manipulating her emotions. Initially reluctant, Joss eventually succumbs to Tedros's influence, urging him to continue using the collar on Xander. Out of desperation to end his ordeal, Xander claims he's been deceitful, although his honesty remains questionable. Destiny later offers feedback on one of Joss's tracks, praising it but suggesting she could deliver even better vocally. The song, In Joss's Eyes, is perfect. She suggests Tedros should rest, hinting at his recent drug habits. Their conversation gets heated. Xander, still with the shock collar, appears vulnerable. As the blonde man tends to a soiled Xander, it's unclear whether it's out of care or malicious intent. Later, there's ambiguity about the blonde man's intentions when he says Xander can leave after doing something. Joss and Destiny discuss Tedros. Destiny cautiously brings up his prison tattoos. Joss admits knowledge but avoids the subject. She then recounts an incident involving Tedros' ex-girlfriend, defending him by saying he acted in self-defense. Joss reveals that some girls, previously under Tedros as artists, accused him of being their pimp, leading to his 6-year prison stint. Tedros advises Joss to disclose her past trauma with her mother to boost ticket sales, which she does. While cleaning a table to prevent damage, Leia is ridiculed by Tedros. Joss stands up for her, confronting Tedros publicly. As the atmosphere at the party evolves, Diane arrives, appearing close to Tedros, which doesn't go unnoticed by Joss. Chloe reveals Tedros wanted Diane to bring Joss to the club. When Diane and Joss finally converse, Diane informs Joss about a deal she made with Nikki. Although hurt, Joss expresses happiness for Diane and encourages her to seize the opportunity. Although Joss is visibly distressed, she contacts Rob, her former boyfriend. As Rob arrives, Tedros meets him first, offering a drink. In a rather bad mood, Tedros throws insults at Rob and, despite almost being sick from the alcohol, challenges Rob to a physical confrontation. Joss intervenes, clearly favoring Rob's company over Tedros. The two share an intimate moment, wondering about their past and the secrets Joss kept regarding her mother. Their time together becomes more passionate, even as Tedros tries and fails to intervene, ultimately succumbing to tears outside their door. The episode takes another twist when, before Rob's exit, Xander and a friend force him into a compromising picture. A girl sits provocatively on Rob's lap, despite his clear discomfort and attempt to prevent the situation. The image, taken without Rob's full consent, has an implication far beyond a simple photo. Considering the blonde man wasn't expecting Rob's visit, one wonders if Xander acted to regain Tedros' trust or out of personal vendetta against Joss, especially after she sided with Tedros during the shocking incident. Joss is immersed in her music, recording a track. While she sings, Tedros is elsewhere in the mansion, drinking. Surprisingly, his usual group is absent. Recalling the previous episode, Joss had chosen her ex-boyfriend, Rob, over Tedros. In the recording area, both Xander and Leia are present, seemingly content again. Tedros steps in, giving feedback on Joss's song. However, she suggests he leave, indicating he has fulfilled his role. Tedros, losing his grip, references himself as Joss's muse. His appearance indicates a few days of heavy drinking and likely drug use. When Joss labels him a fraud, Chloe reveals that Tedros had been planning to enter Joss's life for a long time. Later, Joss presents her song to Nikki, who is impressed. However, a representative from Live Nation expresses reservations about their upcoming tour. Amidst this, Leia hints at wanting to discuss something crucial with Joss, though Joss is too preoccupied to delve into it. Making her intentions clear, Joss approaches the group, once loyal to Tedro, and proposes they open for her tour. She challenges them to give a stellar performance to convince the Live Nation rep. Tedro isn't pleased, feeling Joss is taking his people. But Joss counters, asserting they are now hers and she has the power to make them famous, sidelining Tedro and his views. As Joss departs, the episode leaves viewers in suspense. Tedro pulls Xander aside, suggesting they shouldn't let Joss overshadow them. He urges Xander to secure a place in the upcoming tour. Meanwhile, Joss is quite tense, visibly upset, and neglects a call from Rob. When her management team arrives looking for her, Tedro, unfortunately, becomes their first impression. He'd advised his female followers to do whatever necessary to make an impact. So, one of them boldly approaches the tour manager with a proposal for a private meeting, causing discomfort. Even though Chloe, a truly gifted artist, performs, the manager seems unimpressed, mentioning financial concerns. Outside, Rob is conversing with Leia. They're worried about Xander's earlier photo scheme. The girl in that photo went public, accusing Rob of misconduct, a clear falsehood. Rob recalls meeting her briefly and blames Xander for initiating the photo. Leia attempts to address the issue with Xander, but he dismisses her. Inside, Tedro's group begins to perform. Initially indifferent, the management team starts recognizing the potential, seeing an opportunity for profit given the talent in front of them. Soon, news breaks regarding Rob. Nikki shares that Rob's role will be digitally altered in his film due to the allegations. Joss suspects Tedro, assuming his jealousy led him to some involvement in the controversy. She demands he leaves immediately. Sneaky Xander gets a chance to sing, impressing the manager and audience alike. Joss offers to pay Tedro whatever sum he desires to ensure he leaves her residence. However, when Kame offers Tedro a check of $500,000, Tedro rejects it, wanting to show Kame that Joss's worth surpasses any amount. Nikki alerts Diane of a legal hiccup with their track, prompting a halt on the single's release. The music label remains supportive of Diane but decides to put her on a brief pause. Diane suspects Joss might be behind this, but Nikki stays silent. Kame approaches a Vanity Fair journalist, hinting at more juicy details. Fast forward 6 weeks, and things are flourishing. Joss has released 3 popular tracks, and the tour tickets are sold out. The management team, feeling triumphant, remarks on how they've essentially dismantled Tedro's reputation, exposing his questionable past. Tedro shows up at the concert venue, inquiring about a past Joss might have left for him. Indeed, she did. Inside the venue, instead of encountering Joss, he meets Destiny, who sternly warns him against causing harm to Joss, threatening dire consequences. In this segment, Tedro is more reserved, letting go of his exaggerated persona. Had he been this reserved from the start, with a toned-down portrayal of his eccentric beliefs, it might have made the story a bit more palatable. When Joss appears, she and Tedro express their longing for each other. Inside her dressing room, Tedro picks up a hairbrush, questioning its significance related to her abusive past. While Joss confirms its importance, Tedro notes it looks brand new. She smirks, leaving some doubt about the true extent of her past ordeals. It hints that perhaps Joss allowed some of the mistreatment by Tedro to fuel her creativity. Although she seemed to have moments of clarity and defiance against him earlier, the plot suggests she might have been pulling the strings all along. In the finale, Joss takes the stage and introduces Tedro as her savior during tough times. After a passionate on-stage kiss, she firmly tells him he belongs to her and instructs him to stand aside. It seems he'll be under her control now.